Is poverty the root of crime, as the media and some politicians continuously tell us it is? We're going to take a look at the 10 poorest cities in America and compare their crime rates with the national average to find out if poverty causing crime is fact or fiction. So let's start with the 10th poorest city in America and the first of 4 cities from Texas on this list, Mikes, Texas. Mikes is near the southern border, and nearly 75% of its residents live below the poverty line. It is one of very few places where none of the residents over the age of 25 have a bachelor's degree, and only 6% even have a high school diploma, whereas 88% of American adults graduate high school. The population of Mikes is 100% Hispanic or Latino. Crime in Mikes is slightly higher than the national average, with violent crime on a scale of 1 to 100 being 1.7 higher than that of the U.S., and property crime 9.7 higher. The 9th poorest city in America is Latina Ranch, Texas. Latina is on the southern border along the Rio Grande and is one of the 9 cities in America where more than 75% of the population lives below the poverty line. None of the adults hold a bachelor's degree, and less than 70% of the adults graduated high school. 95% of the population of Latina Ranch is Hispanic. Crime in Latina Ranch is slightly higher than the national average, with violent crime 1 point higher and property crime 6.9 points higher. The 8th poorest city in America is Jefferson, West Virginia. This small town is the poorest place in West Virginia. The poverty rate of 77.8 is nearly 6 times the national rate. Located in a coal-producing region, this area has had devastating economical effects due to a decline in coal production. About 25% of those over the age of 16 have a job. Over 70% of Jefferson's population is white, with the remaining either black or mixed race. Crime in Jefferson is equal to the nation in violent crime and 4.7 points lower than the nation in property crime. The 7th poorest city is Alamo, New Mexico. Alamo is a community in the Alamo Navajo Indian Reservation where 80% of the population live below the poverty line. Only about half the adults in Alamo have a high school diploma. Crime in Alamo is slightly higher than the nation, with violent crime 10.2 points higher and property crime 3.5 points higher. The 6th poorest city is Round Valley, Arizona. Round Valley is one of 6 communities in the United States where more than 80% of the residents live below the poverty line. Only 39% of the residents hold a job or are even looking for a job, well below the national labor force rate of 63.4. Round Valley is 91% white and 9% American Indian. Crime in Round Valley is slightly higher than the nation, with violent crime 2 points higher and property crime 3.1 points higher. The 5th poorest city is Calvert, Alabama, which is the poorest community in the state. Nearly 84% of the residents live below the poverty line. Only about 33% of the residents have a high school diploma, and the population is 89% white and 11% American Indian. Crime in Calvert is the highest we've seen so far on this list, with violent crime 17 points higher and property crime 22.3 points higher. The 4th poorest city in America is Porcupine, South Dakota. Porcupine is part of the Pine Ridge Reservation. 90% of the residents live below the poverty line. 87% of the population is American Indian, with the remainder being white or mixed race. Crime in Porcupine is well below the national averages, with violent crime 7.5 points below and property crime 17.1 points lower. The 3rd poorest city is Ranchito Estate, Texas. In Ranchito Estate, more than 90% of the residents live below the poverty line. About 20% of the adults have a high school diploma, and the unemployment rate is nearly 63%. 100% of the population is Hispanic. Crime in the Ranchito Estate is slightly higher than the nation, with violent crime 1.1 point higher and property crime 8.6 points higher. The 2nd poorest city in the country is Watchtower, New York. Watchtower has a poverty rate of 92%. Virtually none of the over 2,000 residents have a typical job or are looking for one. Watchtower is the most diverse city we've seen so far, with 40% of the population being white, 33% Hispanic, and 16% black, and the rest are either Asian or mixed race. Getting crime numbers on Watchtower is difficult, as it does not have FBI crime statistics, but the next closest city is Shawangunk, New York, which has a violent crime rating slightly above the U.S. average and property crime is slightly below the U.S. average. And the number one poorest city in America is South La Paloma, the fourth city from Texas on this list. South La Paloma has a poverty rate of 92.5%, nearly 7 times higher than the national poverty rate of 13.4%. Around 48% of the adults graduated high school, and none hold a college degree. South La Paloma is over 80% Hispanic or Latino. Crime in South La Paloma is slightly higher than the national average, with violent crime 1.7 points higher and property crime 9.7 points higher. So does poverty cause crime? Cities with high crime rates, like Detroit, Michigan, have a violent crime rating of 94.3 out of 100 and property crime rating of 66.7 out of 100, considerably higher than any of these poorest cities in America. Baltimore is 77.8 on violent crime and 67.6 on property crime. I could go on, but you get the point. Aside from Calvert, Alabama, which has the worst crime of these 10, and legitimately a bad crime area compared to the national averages, the rest of this list was close to the national average, and the fourth poorest city, Porcupine, South Dakota, would be considered an extremely safe area by any standards. 4 of these cities were nearly 100% Hispanic. 3 were majority American Indian, 2 of them majority white, and 1 was extremely diverse. None of the 10 poorest cities were largely Asian or black or any other race. So I'm not sure a blanket statement that poverty causes crime is factual when only 1 of these 10 cities has anything close to a bad crime problem. But you can decide for yourself. And leave a message in the comments and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and stay safe, America. Support this channel and pick yourself up some original crime-related apparel. Look for the link in the description.